Hey everyone, and welcome to another Marks & Crafts unboxing and review. Today I'll be looking at the Elizabeth figure from Seven Deadly Sins, also known as Nanatsu No Taizai. Now, say what you will about Seven Deadly Sins' animation, at least for the third season onwards, but I quite like the series, and that's mainly because I was reading the manga week to week. So I still have a bit of a love for it, even though a lot of other people have probably dropped it. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame how that went. But I still like it, and I've always wanted some merch from it. So let's open her up and have a look. So first impressions out of the box, she looks really good and really clean. The paint looks pretty good, pretty consistent. Only very minor thing, it seems like there's a seam line on her hair similar to Mako, but it seems like it might really only be on the top of the hair because the bangs cover the front. I'll put it in the light box and we'll get a better look at it. Now here's Elizabeth all set up, and she looks pretty good. She's not wearing her sort of like season 1 boar hat uniform, the pink frilly one. I'm not a huge fan of that design. It just seemed a little bit too weird. Oh, like it's just a little bit too frilly and strange. Like it was a very odd mix. So I prefer this sort of like stripped down, almost more monochromatic style, as well as asymmetrical style. I also feel like because this is a more streamlined design and a lot simpler outfit, it's probably better in terms of like the paint and detail work because there's less to do and less to get wrong. And this is another one, we'll zoom in a bit later, but so far I feel like this is another one of those pop-up parades where they've sort of nailed the aesthetic of the face a bit more. I know it doesn't look quite like the anime or manga, but it seems like it's a lot closer to that, especially for a figurine, because that sort of style would be a bit awkward to capture in that. As this one looks good so far, I really haven't picked out anything. Like I said before, I think that this monochromatic and simple design is probably working in Pop-Up Parade's favour for detail and paint consistency. I am keen to see how they go with some of the other ones, like Ban, for example, with his sort of full leather red outfit, because that might be difficult to get right, but we did get the Junko Enoshima figure where they did high gloss for her boots, so they might do a very high gloss for Ban's outfit. I am keen to see if they'll do even more beyond that, because it's been far too long and we haven't gotten an Escanor figure, but he'd need to be in scale, so he'd probably be the biggest pop-up parade they've made. Like I mentioned before, there is the seam line in her hair, but as I've got it rotating around now, it doesn't really bother me all that much. Like I said, the bangs probably cover it up. Like much like the Mako, from the main viewing angle, you're not going to notice the seam line, but I feel like in general you can pose this in multiple spots and it'll look just fine. It's more that if you're just looking at it from top down, you'll notice the seam line. So far, out of my reviews, this is probably the most consistent pop-up parade that I've done, which is nice. So it's a nice, refreshing change of pace. I don't know how it is for other ones. I hope it's consistent amongst. I hope it's consistent across the board, because I did look up the Dark Magician Girl pop-up parade after the review and saw most people have these paint errors. Most people didn't really complain about them, but I could see that like it was quite common that the pink trim around the outfit was always messed up, or the crest on her chest is messed up as well. So it's a shame that like that was consistent across the board. And one other thing, and it's another parallel to the Dark Magician Girl that I think is important, is on the base. Again, not a huge fan of the hexagon base, but the Dark Magician Girl had hexagon base and sort of like white wave-ish effect, and then the figure itself, and that sort of like elevated her off of the base and sort of suspended her in the air. But that was a different colour to the hexagon, and it was really weird. In this one, they've blended the exact same colour as the little like peg holding her into the base, so it works a lot better. I do also think that the colour of the base matches a bit better. Like this purple of the base matches her outfit. there's not a lot to say about this one because there's not a lot of errors to point out. The pose is fine, looks like the character, design-wise, really good. I'm glad that they went with a later season outfit rather than first season. The base, well, I'm not a huge fan of it. I do like the aesthetic colour, and I do like the new base peg, that it matches the rest of the figure just fine. And again, like the last few pop-up parades that I've been looking at, it's all series that have a scarcity of merch. Kill la Kill, Danganronpa, now Seven Deadly Sins. It's nice to see representation of series like these, and I feel like that's where Pop-Up Parade will really shine, is really getting in there for series that don't get a lot of merch or have a severe lack of like male character diversity. Even though I haven't looked at any male characters yet, but Pop-Up Parade sort of started out doing Goblin Slayer and Fairy Tail and started doing male characters from that, whereas like for regular figurines, you're a lot less likely to get a male figure statue, at least in like a proper scale. It might be like a prize figure or something like that. So I'm glad that Pop-Up Parade are sort of trying to bridge that gap ever so slightly, as well as represent series that wouldn't get any merch anyway, like Seven Deadly Sins, because there's just not a lot of stuff out there. So it's cool that they can sort of fit in that niche. And that's pretty much all I have to say about it, really. Like, there's nothing wrong about the figure, really. It's nice to have representation from Seven Deadly Sins. I'm keen to see what they do next for it with the Meliodas and Bun, and what comes after that, as well as what new IP Pop-Up Parade will get under their belt next time. But yeah, it's really interesting, really cool. I'm glad to see some improvement in the line. So I hope you enjoyed that video, and I'll see you all next time.